Good afternoon, everyone. Today I am going to be sharing some of my work with children and families in Haiti, a country that has a lot in common with Bangladesh. As most of you know, Haiti has also undergone a long series of catastrophes and is in fact still going through it. As a disaster anthropologist, my work focuses on trying to identify the root causes of this and all disasters. I also try to understand why humanitarian aid organizations, development agencies, and international aid organizations and the media often fail to assist those most in need. And most of us have probably heard recent reports on how all of the money that we donated to Haiti has been, unfortunately not reached the people that it was intended to. So today I'm going to talk about how, despite some of the best efforts to help Haitian children, they were in fact harmed by the entire process. I hope that what happened in Haiti does not happen in Bangladesh when disaster strikes. So I hope that the stories I will tell you about today will serve as what not to do in the future. So my presentation today is called Rescuing Haiti's Children, Haitian Families, Missionaries, and the Media Along the Post-Earthquake Haitian Dominican Border. So when the news of the January 12th earthquake in Haiti broke, the tragedy became the headlining story worldwide. Without delay, the top reporters from worldwide news services rushed to Haiti to embed themselves in the destruction. Whether it was Anderson Cooper's gut-wrenching coverage in which he saves an injured boy from a mob of looters, or the iconic image of the small boy being pulled out of the rubble by his rescuers, stories and images of foreigners saving distressed Haitian children circulated widely. Among the generalized focus on children, orphans and foster children became the face of the Haitian tragedy. According to initial estimates, as many as 1 million previous newly orphaned and unaccompanied children had been left vulnerable to food shortages, disease, child traffickers, and prostitution rings. Haiti's restivex, or child slaves, were of most concern. If the lives of Haiti's so-called child slaves were precarious before the earthquake, these children would certainly be exposed to all sorts of serious dangers in the post-earthquake chaos that followed. The underlying message in most of these orphan-related stories was clear. Haiti's children have been left to fend for themselves. Us, the viewers, needed to rescue them. Through its pervasive presence and influence, the orphan-focused earthquake mediascape moved many individuals to action. According to Diane Hoffman, and I'm quoting, offers of money, donations of time, but most importantly, offers to adopt Haitian children swamped internet blogs, chat rooms, and the media. Queen Latifah, appearing on the Today's Show, said, "I want to just go and get some of them babies. If you got the hookup, please get me a couple of Haitian kids." At the height of the world's attention on Haitian children, Laura Silsby and a group of 9 New Life Church congregation members made their way to Haiti to rescue some orphans. Their rescue plan was simple: find a group of orphans, extract them from Haiti, and take them to the makeshift orphanage across the border in the Dominican Republic. Their rescue efforts, however, failed miserably. Haitian border officials requested that Silsby and her group present the paperwork that authorized them to take the children out of the country. Silsby and her group, however, did not have any. Haitian officials charged the group with kidnapping and child trafficking, setting in motion a scandal of international proportions. At first, everyone thought it was a misunderstanding. After all, these were church-going Americans wanting to rescue little orphans from the earthquake chaos. But as reporters unearthed details of the scandal, the case became more and more complicated. The orphans were not orphans at all. In fact, their parents were alive and well. Had the children been, in effect, kidnapped, as the Haitian state alleged? As reporters scrambled to dig deeper into the story, they found out information that would exculpate the group but condemn Haitian parents in the court of public opinion. The children, it turns out, had not been kidnapped. In fact, their parents had given them up willingly to the Americans. The questions reporters were trying to answer now were, 1, how could parents give their children away? And 2, how could they give them away to complete strangers? According to Reuters, to a Reuters story published shortly after, the answer to these questions lie in Haitian parenting culture. The practice, and I'm quoting here, the practice of poor families giving away children to wealthier acquaintances or relatives is deeply ingrained in the culture of the impoverished former slave colony. It is a relic of Haiti's slave past, when the children of slaves worked as domestics in the home of the master. Not only do Haitian parents give their children away with apparent ease, but they knowingly place them in abusive child slavery-like conditions. Thousands of Haitian children, the article continues, have been freely given by their own parents to a life of slavery within Haiti. As to why they gave them up to foreigners, the reporter quotes a 39-year-old Haitian mother who states that she prefers to give her children to foreigners because Haitians will make them suffer. They force the child to work like an animal. They don't really take care of them. Eventually, the 33 children were returned to their biological parents. The missionaries were acquitted, and Laura Silsby was convicted of a lesser charge and sentenced to time served. But although this scandal disappeared from the headlines, this incident and the media attention it garnered had long-lasting consequences. In this paper, I will describe how the world's efforts to rescue Haiti's children, particularly those that followed the Silsby scandal, undermined important Haitian and Dominican child-rearing practices along the border and placed children in situations of further risk and harm. To understand how Laura Silsby's case impacted border families, we must first situate Hispaniolan child-rearing practices within their proper pre-earthquake context. The practice of giving up or taking in other people's children is common throughout the entire island and in the Caribbean, for that matter. Families enter into these arrangements for a variety of reasons that range from infertility, empty nest, schooling, to the development of social ties akin to godparenthood. However, most arrangements constitute what Madhavan has called crisis fosterage. When providing for one's children becomes impossible, parents turn to others, mostly relatives and non-relatives, for assistance. Thus, fosterage decisions are often forced, that is, carried out as a measure of last resort. Households facing all sorts of crises in Haiti, whether it's landslides, death of parents, loss of livelihoods, gender violence, turn to fosterage as a means to cope with crisis. In other words, parents don't just give away their children, as the Reuters article suggested. In this typical culturally accepted practice, receiving families must provide foster children with food, clothing, shelter, and most importantly, an education. In exchange, the child must behave like a biological offspring, that is, listen to his or her foster parents and perform differing household tasks in the home. Although a de facto child custody transfer is carried out from the biological to the foster family, the biological parents continue to be involved in the child-rearing process, and they nurture the parent-child affective relationship. But most importantly, they participate in the child-rearing process by ensuring that their child is being treated well while living in the foster home. For instance, biological parents will often visit the foster home, and conversely, the child will visit his or her parents. If the biological parents deem that the child is not being treated well, they will terminate the arrangement at any time and physically remove the child from the foster home. Although this practice is recognized by Dominicans and Haitians as an acceptable and positive child-rearing strategy, particularly in crisis contexts, abusive treatment of foster children is unfortunately common, particularly in Haiti. As a result, these child-rearing arrangements have been characterized as modern-day child slavery by international child and labor rights organizations. However, while abusive arrangements take place, we must be careful to not categorize all fosterage arrangements as such. Most arrangements are beneficial to the families involved. The Haitian-Dominican border provides a unique context within which these and other social relations take place. Here we have Haitian families giving up their children to Dominican families across the border. After the earthquake, hundreds of thousands of Haitian families faced a crisis of immeasurable proportions. As Haitians scrambled to reconstitute their destroyed lives, fosterage became an indispensable strategy. This was particularly the case among earthquake-displaced families living on the Haitian-Dominican border. To illustrate this process, I will draw from some of the experiences that that Hélène, a 23-year-old Haitian mother I met in Elias Piña, told me. So on the day of the earthquake, Hélène was with her 1.5-year-old twins, and her house had collapsed, and she had lost her husband and her parents. And the only way that she left Port-au-Prince to the Dominican Republic, and the only way that she could do so, was by giving up her kids to another family. She could not come to a new country where she didn't speak the language, nor was she documented to find work, and at the same time take care of her kids. Like Hélène, countless of other displaced families across the border turned to fosterage as a means to cope with their post-earthquake lives. As people left Port-au-Prince and reconstituted their households, families gave up or took in children throughout the process. Unfortunately, the Silsby case and the media attention that followed created a context within which foster children became more vulnerable to isolation and abuse. To understand why this is the case, we must return once again to the Laura Silsby case. After the earthquake, the Haitian government, UNICEF, NGOs, and the media warned that child traffickers could take advantage of the ensuing chaos to prey on vulnerable children. The well-publicized Silsby drama seemed to reinforce this threat. After the Silsby scandal, a cluster of child-centered humanitarian organizations set in motion a series of measures that focused on 3 components: education, border control, and family reunification. The last approach, reunification, the combination of these 3 different approaches, what ended up happening was education, border control, and reunification, was ended hurting and hindering the culturally pre-established system where people could cross the border and make sure that the children were being treated well. What consequences did this have for families like Elena and Eva? The increased border control kept Eva and her parents from visiting each other. The fear of Eva's relocation to her biological home kept Elaine from attempting to send her for visits. In the end, these measures effectively isolated biological foster families and children from each other. Child fosterage arrangements have been a common parenting strategy on Hispaniola. For decades, families have placed children with others to help them adapt to many of the crises that have affected the region. As people faced the post-earthquake uncertainties, they gave up and took in children in the process. All throughout the earthquake and its aftermath, the world focused on saving Haiti's children. But one could and probably ought to ask, saved from what, by whom, and for what purpose? Schwartz has suggested that Haitian child slave narratives have been exploited by orphanages and NGOs as an institutional mechanism to collect money and sell newspapers. Whether or not that is the case is outside the scope of today's talk, but to understand why people like Queen Latifah and Laura Silsby felt the urge to rescue Haiti's children, a patronized concept of mediascape is useful. In the child-focused mediascape that followed the earthquake, international viewers constructed scripts or conceptual models of Haitian childhoods using the decontextualized images and narratives like the Reuters article that circulated. More importantly, they disregarded the previously existing family arrangements that Haitian and Dominican families relied upon. Today, I want to return once again to my visit to DCI at the DCI facilities in Dhaka. I was very, very impressed by how they are incorporating the family arrangements and culture of Bangladesh into their programs. Although they incorporate outsiders into their programs and are calling for help here in the United States, it is always taking into account the culture of Bangladesh and is not disregarding the rights of children and the rights of parents in Bangladesh. I hope that my talk today can help DCI and help us consider what will happen when a disaster strikes in Bangladesh and how it will impact children. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. Thank you very much.